Day 23 of the fast, 9:19 p.m., 2024. 23 days ago, I decided to start an instant gratification fast and a sugar fast with a few exceptions. Like, I still wanted to use learning tools at my disposal and I need to see it. So, I'll get the information I need from YouTube and use it right away and keep myself at that until I need something else specific. But I try to use it as little as possible. And also, I use honey in coffee and also eat fruits for nutritional and also as a tool. I use coffee as a tool. Like, I'm using this to supercharge my learning, focus, all that. And yesterday, I talked a little bit about, I guess, limit breaking. Kinda. I was basically saying that there's a part of your brain that is specifically for impulse control and discipline. And great ways to build that up is by doing things you don't like, even if it's something as simple as drinking your coffee black, uh, like doing one push up or going out and like just going outside, even just making your bed every morning. It's important to stay consistent, but also, like, if there's something like an addiction that you're trying to challenge, the first thing is you got to know why exactly you have that addiction. It's like not to generalize it or anything. What are you using that addiction to replace? Like when I was younger, and actually still a little bit now, I was playing video games to escape my reality, which I feel like a lot of people do. And don't get me wrong, I genuinely love games, but I was so like I would watch anime and everything, pretty much just anything to get me out of the real world because I hated living in it. And for a while, that was what was keeping me alive. Because if I was doing that, I wasn't doing other things because I was in a very dark place at that time. After a while, I realized that I didn't really need to escape reality more, but I was still addicted. But I had to identify first why I was still doing it. And generally, I realized it's because I grew to be afraid of reality. I grew to be afraid of like putting in real work. And don't get me wrong, you can't put in real work when it comes into like something like video games, but it's different. Those aren't things that you can use in the real world per se. And like don't I still love games. I still love anything animated, movies and stuff like that. I still love all that. I'm going to learn how to maintain it because I don't want to give them up and I like just watching, playing through or reading stories. I like seeing characters do whatever, go through certain trials and tribulations, overcome them. I like seeing that. I genuinely do. I actually want to be a part of that one day, which is why I'm practicing drawing now. But I have already asked the questions to decide and even abstained from it to decide that that is something I genuinely want and not something I genuinely feel I need. Because I've abstained from video games for a long time. This 4 months is just going to be another one of that because I felt like it was distracting me and I was still letting fear cloud my mind from doing what I really needed to do, which was create my own stories. Still haven't gotten there yet because I still need to work on skills. But I'm sure you see like that whiteboard behind me. There was a point where I was actually trying to make a story, and I was using those whiteboards to kind of plan things out. How do the abilities work? How do like people live in that world? How do they make the world work for them? And at some point I realized that I was a very impulsive person. Subconsciously, I figured that out. I didn't figure it out right away. It was kind of like after I started doing things, going into like Red Pill YouTube, which is like all things masculinity and stuff. But what I didn't realize is that that stuff was actually training me to face discomfort. And as I did more of that, the easier it became to the point where now I can actually face my fears when it comes to the things I'm afraid of and give up things that I previously never wanted to give up. Like I know now that I can like easily live without video games or any of that because I can find many other ways to entertain myself and keep myself busy. But I still want them because I like to have them. And I've genuinely asked those questions to make sure that that was the real case. But before, I was totally addicted. All I was doing was watching anime, playing video games, sitting on my butt, not really doing anything. Not drawing, not reading, or learning anything. And when I was a child, I used to love doing all of that. This is in a way me getting back in touch with my inner child. So, if you're facing an addiction right now, it's okay to start with things that are not really related to your addiction, just so you can build up that resistance. But at some point, you should start doing things that are making you more just like uncomfortable, that are related to that addiction. But if you're still using that addiction to replace a certain emotion or avoid processing something, you need to do that first. I personally started going to therapy I tried it 4 years ago once, but I realized I wasn't ready for it because there were a lot of things I didn't know. So I started researching psychology, kind of treating myself as my own therapist for a while. Then I went back into therapy about 2 years ago, and I've been in therapy for 2 years. So now when my therapist and I talk, it's kind of like two therapists trying to solve the same solve the same problem. So I think it's really important for people to actually understand a little bit how the mind works. So do a little bit of research on psychology. It's actually very fun to learn about. You're basically learning about yourself. So long as you don't only learn about serial killer psychology, which is what a lot of people do when they say they like psychology. You need to know how the brain and mind actually works and processes things. Once you know that, it'll be easier to know how your brain can conquer certain obstacles. And then at some point, you won't view those obstacles as obstacles anymore, but challenges and opportunities. Which I know sounds crazy. And I'm still working on that part myself, but I've noticed that when something bad happens or a challenge comes up, I immediately try to think about what I can do to get around it if it ever happens again, or while it's happening currently. Do whatever you have to do to get started, but it's important to get started at the very least. Like I said, there's got to be something you don't like to do. Start with that. And then after you get a little comfortable doing things you don't like to do the thing that you really don't like to do. Ramp it up until eventually you get to the point where resistance is no longer no longer a thing that stops you from doing it. You'll still feel it. I can't promise it'll ever go away. You will still feel it, but you can at least convince yourself easier to face it. And if you start something, and you fail, like you're trying to give up your addiction, or you're trying to diet or exercise, focus on your victories. Focus on how long you did it for. Focus on what you achieved while doing it, even if it's only for one day. One day is a victory. Try for 2 days next time. Then after 3 days, and so on. Even if it's like a month apart, as long as you're improving, that is what matters. I still got a lot of work to do, for sure. Like, I haven't finished my drawing session, and Sabbath is tomorrow. So I'm gonna rest tomorrow and just get what I can in today. Not just because I have to, but because I really want to. So, with that being said, hope you all are taking care of yourselves. God bless you in your endeavors.